What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. I'm your host, Pat Deneen, and this is my review of AEW Rampage, which took place in Sunrise, Florida, with a special start time of 6:30 p.m., as it will be for the next episode as well. Pretty good show, of course. Rampage, you don't have very high expectations. 9 times out of 10, it's a pre-recorded show. We already know the results 48 hours in advance, so take it for what it is. But I want to start off with a little bit of an honor to the Bullet Club, who just hit 10 years. That means an entire decade of Bullet Club we've had. Debuted May 3rd, 2013 in New Japan Pro Wrestling, of course. And this past Wednesday, we got to honor them 10 years. We've had a lot of big notable names throughout numerous promotions that have either started in Bullet Club or really came onto the scene in a major way, made a real impact. And some of those guys are in WWE, they're in AEW, they're in Impact, they're in Ring of Honor, and some of them right now are in New Japan Pro Wrestling still, where the mainstay of the stable is, I guess you could say. So some of the leaders, well, I'll start with the very first leader, who is Prince Devitt, also known as Finn Balor. We had Carl Anderson joining him. We had Tama Tonga and Bad Luck Fale. Those were the original 4 members of the group. After that, after Prince Devitt, Finn Balor went over to the WWE. We had AJ Styles for a little bit. I know we had Kenny Omega. Who else do we have? We have Switchblade Jay White, and at this very moment in time, we have David Finlay leading the Bullet Club faction in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I know I'm missing 2 leaders throughout the course of that 10-year tenure, so forgive me. But this is a lot of talent. A lot of talent came through here. Many other notable names in the faction as well. Of course, Rock Hard, Juice Robinson, and Switchblade Jay White, a former leader of Bullet Club. Now in AEW, they're referred to as Bullet Club Gold now, as we found out last month when Jay White's, much to our surprise, who we all thought was going to WWE for months. We thought we might see him in the Rumble in January and so on, or maybe the Raw after Mania, which was incredibly disappointing, as we all know. And I was at that show in Long Island when at the very beginning of Dynamite, when Jay White's music hit, everybody was shocked. King Switch made his way out there for the save against or actually, the match didn't even start. It was supposed to be Absolute Ricky Starks going up against a Rock Hard Juice Robinson. It was a 2-on-1 attack. So I say that to say this. We're going to lead into that matchup, which we got a tag team matchup here with Rock Hard Juice Robinson and Switchblade Jay White going up against Absolute Ricky Starks and the Perfect 10, Shawn Spears. Now, this is the first time Shawn Spears is a babyface in at least 4 years. Since he left WWE as Ty Dillinger, the Perfect 10, since he made his way to AEW when he debuted as the chairman, Shawn Spears, getting that name because he hit Cody Rhodes in the head with a chair, busting him open. So he's been heel ever since, whether he's been by himself or a member of the Pinnacle, MJF, FTR, Wardlow, Tully Blanchard a couple years ago. That was a very fun stable, too. Very brief tenure, too. I think maybe 3 months Pinnacle was together. So anyway, this match was all right, but I'm glad they started off with the Bullet Club, rightfully so. And this match ended as such. By the way, I want to mention this because I wasn't even aware of it when they said it on the commentary, that Jay White is the first ever Grand Slam champion in New Japan Pro Wrestling history. Shout out to Jay White. So he ends up getting the pin on Spears for the win after hitting him with his signature Blade Runner. So post-match, we jump right to a brief backstage segment between the Hardys, Hook, and the Firm. Now, they're asking for Isiah Kassidy's whereabouts, Matt Hardy and Hook, what's going on here. Jeff Hardy was also backstage as well. And Stokely Hathaway says he found Cassidy lacking at Applebee's and that it's a damn shame when you get your ass kicked, eating cornbread, drinking a Long Island iced tea with Mary J. Blige playing in the background. Now, this was funny because at this very moment in time, mind you, I never eat Applebee's. It's not a big fan. Me and my wife aren't crazy about it. We happened to be on the DoorDash app looking at Applebee's, and we were on the fence about it, but once we heard that referenced, I was like, all right, I guess we got to do it. That was confirmation. Food wasn't that great. Again, much like the show Rampage, Applebee's, very minimal expectations. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, going back to this segment here, we have Ethan Page and Big Bill. They're about 15, 20 feet in the air or so. And they have Isiah Kassidy. Big Bill's got him and he's got his hand around his neck, right? To chokeslam him to the ground. Again, pretty high up in the air here. And, at this very moment in time, Stokely Hathaway is trying to get a match with the Hardys and Hook or whomever, the whole group, next week on Rampage. So Matt Hardy accepted. It's going to be at the Hardy compound. This episode of Rampage, again, starting at 6:30 this week. It's going to be called the Firm Deletion Match. And it's going to be Matt and Jeff Hardy, Hook, Isiah Kassidy going up against Stokely Hathaway, Big Bill, Ethan Page, and Lee Moriarty, all members of the Firm. So Big Bill, as heels always do, they did get the match, but he still had to do a heel thing. and he chokeslammed Isiah Kassidy to the ground. Of course, Isiah Kassidy's all right. They didn't really throw him 20 feet to the ground. Uh, when they obviously they didn't pan to the ground until about 15 seconds later when he was laying there and probably gently rolled his way down there. So we're gonna get that match. Actually, looking forward to that. It should be fun. Hardy compound matches typically are fun. They were fun in Impact. WWE, I think they may have done one or two, and even in AEW, they may have done one already. So they're usually very entertaining, to say the least. So next up here, we had Dustin Rhodes and Keith Lee going up against some enhancement talent, tag team, some local guys. Brief match, as expected. Lee gets the pin after hitting him with a spirit bomb. Now, post-match, Swerve's music hits. He stands at the top of the ramp with the entirety of the Embassy. They have this merger now with his guys and Embassy. Even though I haven't seen the two guys with him, Parker Boudreaux and the other guy with the tattoos all over his face. I didn't even catch his name ever. Anyway, so they're at the top of the ramp, and they may be scheduled for a match on Rampage as well. No, I'm not too sure. I can't confirm that. But that seems to be a feud that's never ending. Don't get me wrong, I am interested in it, but it's been lingering since last September. So I'm ready for them to move on from the whole Keith Lee Swerve bit, to be completely honest with you guys. So now here we had Ty Mello, and I really like this segment actually. Ty Mello, being the good wife that she is, goes up to Sammy Guevara backstage and tells him flat out that, look, MJF is not your friend. She says, what are you doing it for? Is it for the money? You don't even like MJF. What's this all about? Why are you guys suddenly best friends, buddy, the last few weeks? Again, I enjoyed this segment. It needed to happen. I'm glad it was his wife that kind of knocked some sense into him. So as much needed. Sammy kind of knows where he stands with MJF ever since MJF didn't let him get in the car, as I referenced on the Dynamite episode review prior to this, and so on. So that story continues, and it will obviously unfold at Double or Nothing May 28th, but that's for another day. So now look, here we had Anna J, or Anna JAS as we call her now, ever since she joined the Jericho Appreciation Society a few months back, going up against Ashley D'Amboise, I believe is her name. Never, this first time I've seen her wrestle, so it was decent. Anna wins by submission. Post-match, lights go out. Julia Hart ends up in the middle of the ring. Of course, these two have been going back and forth for the better part of a month. And Hart knocks Anna out of the ring and beats her down. But Anna got some offense in too, knocking her into the steel ring post, Julia that is, then hanging her upside down and choking her out. Now, while I'm on this topic here, by the way, in regards to one Anna J, I want to note some things. So April 7th, Anna lost to Julia Hart, got the black mist in the face, and Anna ended up returning a week and a half, 2 weeks later, on April 19th, to attack Julia Hart. Her red gear that she typically dons, brighter gear, slowly fading to black, and had some black mist, some black makeup around the eyes, resembling, when she had gotten the mist, much like Julia Hart did many months ago before she joined this faction. So I want you guys to keep note of that. And now Anna's first match, after being misted, she was wearing all black gear, and I don't think that's coincidence. So I would not be surprised because she's just kind of being stagnant with JAS. I get it. Initially, they had her turn heel months ago, joining her best friend, Ty Mello, but they've kind of went separate ways after the feud with Ruby Soho, and obviously Soho being a heel now with the Outcasts, so that's all kind of gone. Anyway, Anna will still remain a heel, but I do think she's eventually going to make her way over to the House of Black. I'm here for it. Obviously she was initially with the Dark Order her first few years in AEW. Then she's been with the JAS for the better part of, I'll say, 6+ months or so. It's kind of ran its course. So I think her making this move over to the House of Black could be good. It really could. And as much as I do like Julia Hart being the leading lady of House of Black, and I think she'll continue to be that, I think Anna Jay would be a great sidekick as well for her. By the way, while we're talking about little side notes here, I meant to mention this actually on the Dynamite review. After about 3 or 4 weeks of the red, white, and blue ropes, which I absolutely love, AEW has seemingly went back to the black ropes, the black ring ropes. So I'll be honest with you. This is how I feel. Initially, when I saw the red, white, and blue ropes, again, it brings me back to the golden era of WWF and just nostalgia of wrestling, and I love it. But, AEW, they're not actually they're not actually ring ropes. They're more like cables. Well, they are cables. Obviously you can go with ring ropes or you can go with the whole cable dynamic. You see that a lot, especially on the indies. You see them go with cables opposed to the more glamorous look of a ring rope. So I'll be honest with you, after the initial week or two of watching AEW Dynamite, especially going there in person in Long Island and seeing the red, white, and blue, as much as I like the color scheme and the nostalgia act of it all, I was thinking to myself, you know what? With the whole Dynamite bit and everything, even though they went with red, white, and blue graphics, which I understand since January, the black does look better. And I think it was the right call to go back to the black cables opposed to staying with the red, white, and blue. Again, I think it was if it was actual ring ropes like WWE typically does, I think it would look great. But it kind of looked cheap. I'll be honest. It looked kind of cheap with the red, white, and blue cables. So black was the way to go. And that's that. Going from the House of Black to the black ropes, got a 2-for-1 in there. So back to the review here. Now we have the Outcasts. They were backstage, all wearing the Britt Baker Black Eye T-shirts, which I'm not sure how they're doing on AEW shop. Of course, there's been a whole lot of talk about that shirt and how people feel about it, with a woman's face on the front of a shirt with a black eye, saying how it's not a good look. And obviously, I'll be honest with you right here, it's not something you wear outside of a wrestling show. We all know how Britt Baker got the black eye and all that stuff. And obviously, if you're wearing it on the street and a random passerby looks at it, they'll be like, "Oh my goodness, like who is that or what is that about?" It looks weird. I get it. It's a strange thing to put on a T-shirt, but people get carried away with everything. So anyway, they're all wearing this T-shirt. It was quite the shiner she got last week in her hometown of Pittsburgh from the Outcasts in that attack with the kendo sticks. They go on to say, "We're going to show you why AEW is our house." Of course, Saraya Page's line, even in WWE, "This is my house." The continued attempts to get under the skin of one Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. The biggest question with Double or Nothing less than a month away is, who is Jamie Hayter's opponent going to be for that AEW Women's World Championship? Will it be a member of the Outcasts, which I would believe it to be so? Will it be Saraya? Will it be Ruby Soho, who has come so close but yet so far? She's obviously never won a championship in AEW yet. Ruby, she always seems to get to a final and loses it. Whether it's the Owen Hart Foundation final last year against Britt Baker, or the TBS Championship Tournament final against the Jade. So always gets so close, but yet so far. Or could it be Toni Storm getting an opportunity again at the title? She lost to Jamie Hayter back at Full Gear in November when she was just referred to as the interim champion, because at the time Thunder Rosa was the actual champion. So that remains to be seen. But I would be led to believe that it's going to be going up against one of those three. I'm not quite sure who else they could throw into the title picture. Granted, they do have 3 weeks or so to get that all squared away. So we'll see what happens. Next up, we have the Acclaimed. They went up against some local talent in a matter of minutes. They squashed them. Wasn't really much to see here other than, the fans getting to see the Acclaimed, to see Max Caster come out, rap a couple of bars, and that's that. So it was always good to see the Acclaimed. Now we have one half of the AEW World Tag Team Champions, Cash Wheeler, going up against Jay Lethal in the main event of Rampage. Now we saw just a couple of days prior, we had seen Jeff Jarrett, much to our surprise, defeat the other member of FTR, the other half of the tag team champs of AEW, Dax Harwood, which was a head scratcher. Now here we go. We have these two going up, the other two members of each given tag team going up one-on-one. And this was a great match. There was no doubts about that going into this. We have Mark Briscoe ringside, as well as Sanjay Dutt, Jeff Jarrett, and Satnam Singh. Now, Dax Harwood was there as well, of course, one half of FTR. And Jay Lethal gets the win over Cash Wheeler with the lethal injection. Now, that is twice in 2 days that both members of the AEW World Champions, two-time tag team champions, rather, FTR, have lost in singles competition to the very two members of this said tag team. So I don't know what's going on here, folks. FTR has only held the gold for a couple of weeks now. Well, actually, it's been a month already, but still in all, is Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, are they going to take them down at Double or Nothing? I'm really concerned here. I am, because FTR have fought so hard in the ring and online as far as getting this opportunity to get a second shot at these AEW tag titles. They hadn't won them since they first joined the company in 2020 during COVID. They were at Daly's place in Jacksonville, And they, much like a lot of us WWE folks want to see Drew McIntyre be WWE champion in front of all the fans now, like he was 2 times in the COVID era in the Thunderdome. We wanted to see FTR go out and do their thing in front of all these fans now as tag champions. And I don't know, it may be cut short May 28th at Double or Nothing. So we'll have to see there. But I'm not so sure, having both of them lose twice in singles competition, why they would do that. I could see maybe one of them, on a fluke victory, but both of them, I don't know what's up with that. Granted, he got some help. Jay Lethal got some help thanks to Sanjay Dutt, who interfered to help get Lethal the victory here. But yeah, so that was pretty much AEW Rampage. That's a wrap. It's a 1 hour show, not a whole lot to talk about. Elaborated as much as I could have for said show. But yeah, that was it. So thank you for tuning in to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. I'm your host, Pat Deneen, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.